It's March, y'all. How did that happen? We're almost through the first quarter of the year. This is insane how fast things are moving. So this month is about sustainable abundance. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm about to burst into laughter because it's humid in here and I can feel my hair swelling up as I speak. And so I was trying to ignore that feeling of my hair rising, and I couldn't ignore it, and I was going to burst into laughter. So let me try this again. It is March 1st, and the theme is sustainable abundance. And, initially I was thinking that we're talking more around prosperity, money. I'm doing a money workshop, and that's where my head has been. And then yesterday happened, where we are now at war. And I thought, what if we had an abundance of peace? Right? What if we had an abundance of peace? Like, how do we tap into, create, hold sustainable abundance of peace? Right? So, true to form, the new talk that I did last night at 1 in the morning is not anywhere on my iPad, so let's just go with it. So today's talk is about stopping the leaks, and one of the things we experience with abundance of any type is that sometimes we can have a surplus, and sometimes we can have a drought. Right? Sometimes we can have a feast, and sometimes it's a famine. And things can go up and down and up and down and up and down in our lives, whether it's financial abundance, whether it's peace in the world, whether it's love, whether it's health, whatever it is. This ability to have a surplus of something and then sustain that, right? To sustain that. What does it take to sustain it? Doesn't mean it will always be, a surplus. It may mean that there's some averaging out, there's some evening out. There aren't the high highs and the low lows. It's just like this sustainable flow that happens, right? And so I wanted to really explore, how do we create that? How do we anchor that in for ourselves individually, for our community, for in this world? Right? And one of the things we see when we think about peace, I was thinking this morning about, this is moving. I was thinking this morning about the book, The Big Leap, which is one of my favorite books by Gay Hendricks. And one of the things he talks about in the very beginning of the book, and the book is all based on how we break through our upper limits, how we break through our self-imposed sort of barriers in life. Right? Whether it's about success or money, relationships, whatever it is, how we break through that. And one of the things he says is how, as human beings, our brains are not really wired for sustainable happiness or sustainable success, if you will. Like, our brains are wired to have constant struggles and grappling with things, and this is probably the first time in human history we've had sustained happiness or able to have sustained happiness, right? So we have to really work to establish that because our brains are used to seeking out threats, dealing with threats, making sure that we're able to survive, versus just being so aligned in this work called Calm Clarity. It's Brain 3.0. It's what we would call God, right? Like being so aligned with the divine that there's much more of a flow, right? And so that is our challenge, is how do we have sustainable peace when there's constant conflict, when there's constant war and rumors of war, where there's constant violence breaking out? Like, how do we sustain peace and have prolonged periods of peace when we have things called the Department of War, right? How do we do that? And so one of the first things to look at in sustainability is where are there leaks, right? Where's the energy leaking out? Where is substance leaking out? Where are there holes? I keep seeing this image of there's like holes in the, like if there's a water hose, there's like holes in that water hose, right? Pinpricks in the water hose, and that water's leaking out, so the full force of it is not there. That sustainable flow can't happen because there's these little things that are draining off the energy in the flow. And so when I think for us, how do we navigate through this time where we are able to, in our own lives, have the feeling, have the experience of sustainable peace? And then I want to look at how do we do that collectively. And so some of the leaks that I sense and that I see to us feeling that sustainable peace is, I want to back up and just say that we are in a time of increasing complexity, right? Increasing complexity where multiple things are happening at one time. So, yes, we can be doing our spiritual practice, we can be anchored in truth, we can be aligned with the divine, and we can be active in the world, actively seeking to make change, right? Both of those things can exist. We can be doing our spiritual practice. We can know oneness. We can know God is all there is. And our hearts can break when we see school children blown up. Our hearts can break. Both things can happen, right? And so what I'm inviting us into is understanding that we are in a time of increasing emotional and energetic complexity where we're having to hold multiple things. How do I hold my form as a spiritual being having a human experience? How do I hold my form as one that's anchored in the rock and be in the world where all this stuff is going on that is calling for my attention, maybe calling for my voice, maybe calling for my actions, right? And so there is this way of being where, yes, we are anchored in the all that is unshakable, that does not move, that does not change, that is all powerful, and that has the final word. It is the final word. We can be anchored in that, and we can feel our feelings when we see these horrific things that human beings do to each other that are so unnecessary, right? All of that can happen at the same time. And so here's where the leaks come in, though. When we fall over or tip over into consuming too much of the content around violence, around the files that are being released, when we consume too much of the content around the dark ways that human beings can interact with each other, when we consume too much of that, then we create an energy leak for ourselves, right? Because all of a sudden, we are locked in energetically to the darkest parts of human nature. And we continue to consume it. It's like food, right? We continue to consume that energy, read the articles, read this thing, here's a new thing released, here's a new thing, right? If we get caught up in that too much, it becomes an energy leak. Because now our energetic tie, our energetic connection, our energetic vibration is at the level of the toxicity, right? Reading something once to sort of understand what's happening, being aware of what's happening in the world is one thing. Consuming it over a period of time is something completely different, and that becomes an energy leak, right? That becomes a leak for your ability to sustain an abundance of peace. Because now you are not aligned with peace. You are completely aligned with the energetic of separation, of strife, of violence, of domination, of all these things. Are y'all following what I'm saying? Yes? And so that is one of the leaks, that overconsumption. And what is being called for right now is that we so do our spiritual work that we have the discernment to know enough. Enough. I'm pushing pause on this, right? And I'm going back to my practice. And I'm getting centered in the eternal. And that is where I'm going to be hanging out, right? Enough. I got it. I got the story, right? And it is okay to do that. It does not mean you're not a good citizen. It does not mean that you are doing spiritual bypass. It does not mean that you are not that you are looking away. Because if your nervous system is dysregulated, right? If your amygdala is hijacked, right? That mechanism in your brain that puts you into fight or flight, and now you're in separation, fight or flight, reactive mode. Everything looks like a threat, right? You're reading more and more stuff about a threat, right? And you're walking around with that energy. That is not peace. You're not a place and space of peace. And so, as I always say, each one of us is a cell in the body collective. And so, if there's a bunch of cells in that body collective that are freaking out and that are all in a toxicity and all just in the rage of all that stuff, if that's where we are, if that's where you are, the body collective is not going to have sustainable peace. Right? So we have to do our work. So this leaking that happens from overconsumption of the negative stuff, that has to stop, right? Or sustainable peace will not happen within your heart. And the other big leak that happens is the opposite of that, and that is the spiritual bypassing. Right? Pretending like I am not feeling the feelings I'm feeling. Right? I am not feeling despair. I am not feeling sadness because God is all there is and I'm one with God. Right? I am not feeling pain when I see the destruction and devastation that's happening because I am one with God and God is all there is. Right? Right? So the spiritual bypassing is another leak of energy because it's ignoring the human experience. We are wired and fired together, right? We are wired and fired together no matter what we think. We are not separate. We're made in the image and likeness and not a pure spirit. We are each expressions of the one. There is one source that birthed us all. We are connected whether we like it or not. We will rise and fall together whether we like it or not. That is what this is. And everything in the world that's happening is teaching us how much we're connected, right? How much we're connected. When something happens way across the world, it impacts us here. We saw that so clearly in COVID, right? All of a sudden, stuff that we didn't even know was connected, right? We couldn't get supplies, we couldn't get toilet paper, all these sort of mundane things. But what it was showing us is like, whoa, on a human level, on a mundane level, in the day-to-day life, we are so interconnected and dependent on each other in ways that we can't even imagine. That was a human demonstration of spiritually, we are connected in ways we cannot even imagine, right? In ways we cannot even imagine. So when we see harm happening to another, when we see hurt happening to another, when we see devastation happening to another, violence happening to another, to pretend that we don't feel something is also a form of leaking. Right? Because we're bypassing our human construction, which has us all wired together, and pretending we don't see what we see. Right? And we're in complete denial. And the thing that happens with denial, the more people who are in denial, whether it's through spiritual bypass or psychological means, the more people who are in denial, the more the predators, the folks who are in a denser reality, the folks who are in a separation consciousness of domination, harm, the more they get to hide, right? The more they get to hide in plain sight. There's no accountability. I talked last week about boundaries, accountability, right? That can't happen if we're out of our emotional state, if we're not connected to how we're feeling. Right? If we're spiritual bypassing or some other kind of bypassing what we're actually feeling about what we're seeing, we can't take any action. And there's a lot of people that count on that in the world of separation. They count on you're not going to take action, not going to do anything. Right? Are y'all following me? So this is our work here in this journey, is to be so aligned with spirit and so knowing and sensing and feeling that the other, whoever we think the other is also a unique expression of spirit, that we're all from this one source, and we are literally one big family, one human family. God does not know your ethnicity. God does not know your religion. God does not know your race. God does not know your gender. We are one big expression of the divine. Right? That is who we are. We are literally one big family. And the more we begin to anchor in that awareness and in that truth, then the more we begin to treat each other with respect, right? That I talked about last week. Respect, right? The more we begin to respect ourselves and maybe set boundaries. I don't know about you, but sometimes in families you experience where you have to set a boundary. Anybody experience that? Right? Zach, watch your language, man. Okay. So that's having boundaries and holding people accountable. Have you ever had to do that in your family? Right? Hold people accountable? Yeah, these are challenging things, but there are times we have to do that. And so we are one big family, and the more that we really get that, then the more we are able to speak truth to power, to stand up and say stop, to push pause, to not accept certain things. Right? And the world is needing that right now. So for you, here's your charge this week: to stop the leaks of overconsumption of the negativity, right? To stop the leaks of spiritual bypassing if that's where you are. Yeah. And to just land right in the center of your being and allow yourself to feel your feelings. To feel your feelings and go to God. And allow Spirit to guide you into what is the action I need to take. Right? What is the move I need to make right now? How can I be a benevolent presence on this planet right now? What is mine to do in the world right now? Where is my voice needed and what am I to say right now? But that has to come as a directive from Spirit. Otherwise, we're just contributing to the same chaos, separation, crazy energy that already exists. Yes. And so that is our assignments, beloved. And this is why I love this community. I love this community and coming together in this gathering on Sundays of like-minded individuals who get this truth, right? Who get this truth. That we are here as unique expressions of the one to shine our lights. We are here to share this message and this teaching with others so that they can feel empowered, right? So that they can understand that they have a direct connection to the divine. We all do. And so they are empowered automatically. They are valued automatically, right? Each of us is. And this is the important thing that our world needs right now, is a group of people who really get this and live this and practice this. And that is the beauty of spiritual community. So today we are going to be, my talk is short today because we're going to be installing new members into this community. Some are in the room with us and some are online. And I just want to say and to say how grateful I am to be here, how grateful I am to be of use, right, to be an instrument, how grateful I am to have more and more people coming into this community and learning this teaching that I feel the world is crying out for. The more people who get this truth, there's a power for good in the world and the universe, and we can use it, and it uses us. The more people that get that and wake up, so many things that we see in the world would just fall away. Would just fall away. And so that is my commitment, is to amplify this message, amplify this teaching beyond these walls. Yes, I want this incredible, loving community that we have here in person, and I want us to knock the walls down and get out into the world with this message. People need this. People need this. And so I'm glad that we're here, and I'm glad you're here. I love y'all. Oh, my God. Let's turn within.